Welcome to Coach Connect Hub. Welcome everyone for another training session. Today we have returning Tom Gay from Engage Pro. Tom, I'm hearing such great feedback from your last session on networking, and today you're going to share with us the second, or let's just say the continuation for it. And Tom, I'm going to let you take it away, and we're going to record this. And then we will have time for Q&A after the recording for those that are here live. Thank you again, Tom, for being here.
Well, thank you, Sam. It's a pleasure, and I appreciate having a chance to speak with all of you as well. I'm going to turn on PowerPoint in a moment, but I'd like to ask a question and just have everyone respond in the chat with a very fast answer. The question is, are you doing virtual online networking? And the answer is yes or no. And then there's a second question. If you're doing online networking outside of Alignable, put a 1 into the chat, meaning there's Zoom networking and then there's the Alignable Smart Connects. And I do both. So I just will use this to try to make our conversation fit the ways that you all go to market. So as I look at Judy Peterson and Evan, you're both ones, which means you network off of Alignable as well as on Alignable. But okay, so let's get going. Let me share my screen. And I'm going to use PowerPoint, but I promise you we'll not make this death by PowerPoint. That's not my goal here. Our topic today is, how do you get results from networking? And there is just an abundant number of how to do what's on networking, how to get results, what to do. I got an invite this morning, networking for introverts. Oh, that's great. But frankly, I think most of them miss the mark. They miss the mark. And I'm going to show you what I recommend. And this is going to be a workshop in which you're going to take some practical steps away from this that you can implement immediately. And as my host, Sam, was saying earlier, you got some great response from my earlier workshops. Well, the reality is, I think I've got about a 45-year head start on you, Sam. That just allows me to have a little more experience. And that experience means I've also made a few more mistakes way before getting to where we are today. And no guarantee we may have one today. So what we're going to talk about is overcoming the challenges of getting results. And there's a number of challenges that are always encountered. I call our days or our times the speed dating times. And whenever I get an invitation to go to a networking meeting, a speed dating networking meeting, my eyes roll to the back of my head and I go, speed dating doesn't work in terms of relationship building and networking. And the going to get something is the wrong attitude in which to go into networking. I'll show you what the right attitude is and why it is. There's also a challenge that when you go to networking, you have to be attentive and people need to listen. And you want those who are in the networking session with you to do the same. Well, with speed dating mindsets and going to get mindsets, the attention is more often placed on, what am I going to say when my 30 seconds come up or my 1 minute comes up, and less on listening to what the other people are. It's the wrong doorway to go into that networking setting. Then we also have the challenge of, what do you get as a result of the time you spend in networking? And the reality is, you go to networking, you leave, you might meet someone in a breakout room. I think your best prospects coming out of a networking meeting are more often not in the breakout rooms. They're amongst the audience who you've not had a chance to spend any time with, getting to know them. And so the ROI on your time invested is limited and restricted. And then follow-up is the key. Nothing happens unless you follow up, and follow-up is something that's hard. Different platforms support follow-up in different ways. I won't sit here and talk about the alignable follow-up method as much as I'm going to show you another method later by the time we get to the end of this. So today you're going to learn how to be better prepared. And I think of this as 3 steps: how to be better prepared, how to stand out, and how to get people to want to meet you. And then we'll show you the follow-up system. A little bit about me. I'm a serial tech marketing entrepreneur. I've started 7 companies, all kinds of success. Probably the most recognized successes are my most recent in starting refer.com and the 22 touch referral system. And those 2 platforms, they're both not around anymore. I sold those years ago. But we ended up with a market size of close to 5 million users of those tools, teaching professionals how to get business, how to get growth by growing relationships. And today I bring that forward in this environment as we are together today. So let's talk about the ecosystem, the sales building ecosystem. You can call this a funnel, you could call it your pipeline, whatever it is in your nomenclature. It really is a flow chart or a process chart of how do you bring someone into the top of your conversation process and bring them all the way through to where you've found someone who can become and does become a client. And we'll address the top 2 pieces today, networking and follow-up, and show you how you make the networking produce people to be progressing along into the follow-up stage. And then follow-up leads to connections, and I like to substitute the word meaningful connections in here. And the goal is to take your networking contacts and turn them into relationships, because that's where sales or referrals or joint venture relationships or speaking platforms all come from. And that's where the ROI from networking takes place. The important thing to realize as an oversight or the overriding element that affects what you get out of networking is how much you work on implementing the activities that stimulate what I call the law of attraction. The important thing to realize here, and it's really simple, we all know a few people. We all know, have a network, have a small community of people. But if you do the right things in networking, that small group, I call it your inner circle, will grow. Your influence grows. And as your influence grows, your opportunity grows. And I want to set something straight right here at the beginning. You do not need hundreds of people in your network. You can never build relationships with hundreds of people. What you want to do is build relationships with a few people who know the people that you would like to meet and serve. And most everyone that I've ever worked with gets to the success level they want by focusing on growing their influence with 15 or 20 or 25 people. Because if 25 people do business with 25 people you'd like to meet, then you've got a prospect potential of 625 people. Now that's more than enough to fill anyone's pipeline. Networking is where it starts, and we're going to take you through the steps of how do you grow your influence. And at the earliest stages of that funnel I just showed a moment ago, you want to become the attractive force. You want people to be drawn towards you, because then your influence grows. If you listen to the constructs of influence, or study them or look at them, there's a very simple way to get an overview of it all. There was a book written about 20 years ago by Dr. Robert Cialdini. He's a retired professor from Arizona State University. It's one of the most impactful books I've ever read, such that I have it in my pantheon of keepers, much like Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. In Dr. Cialdini's work, he said his first work, he said there are 6 elements that cause one's influence to grow. Doing things consistently, establishing visibility for yourself, meaning social proof, having the credentials to be an authority, making yourself likable and approachable, doing things that other people don't do, meaning scarcity. When you're doing all these things and you think like all of us can come out of this with a win of some sort, what happens is you become the attractive force. You become the people magnet. You draw people towards you. Influence affects results, especially if you're in a coaching industry or coaching profession or a training profession. The more you build influence and create that influence with that small group of people, the more you're going to get access, as I call it, to the digital Rolodex. Today, that's a cell phone with one's contact list, but the more you get access to it. Now, there's a 7th category, unity and team. Dr. Cialdini needed to write a 2nd book, and he wrote it to add those elements to the principles of influence. And I have a whole training program on how do you build a referral team? How do you take the people you network with and turn them into a referral team? And that was the work of my last company, refer.com. Anyhow, you need to understand this. You can access Dr. Cialdini's work online. You can go to Success Magazine and search for influence in Dr. Cialdini. There's some very easy to read short articles there that tell the whole story. The goal, however, and there is a single purpose goal, and that's for people to see you as someone who stands out in that noisy group of 30 or 40 or 50 other people on that networking call, to see you differently, to see you stand out because you've established yourself as that attractive, influential, magnetic force. You build influence based on how you engage with people, how often you stay in touch with them, how you follow up after a meeting. You've got to embrace the attitude of being a giver. If you've ever read the book, The Go Giver or Go Givers Sell More, that's what we're speaking to. That's what we're talking about. Doing it consistently and reliably shows that you are the person or type of person I want to hang out with. As I say, give and give and give and give, even in your networking meetings. And I'll give you some examples of that in a moment. And people are going to want to respond back to you and move into your orbit and open a relationship and visit and talk and share and promote you. The goal is TOMA. You see that little funny acronym at the top of the page. TOMA is an acronym meaning top of mind awareness. You want people to be thinking of you all the time, sort of like an old Willie Nelson song. When you're doing the things that make people see you as the go-giver, the powerful attraction in that room, TOMA builds, your influence builds, and now you stand out and you get invited to all the dances. So let's get into the 3 steps. These 3 steps are critical, and we're not going to talk about how do you build an elevator pitch, but I'm working with a coach today out of the Washington, D.C. area, and we've been through the process of developing his elevator pitch. We speak every week. We're in a coaching relationship, but he sent me his elevator pitch and a couple of versions of it. And what I did is I shifted his elevator pitch around to being a solutions-oriented statement as opposed to about himself. Instead of saying, this is who I am and this is what I'm bringing to the party, turn your elevator pitch to one where you are recognizing, acknowledging, and selling, or not selling, but serving the solution of the problem that the people in your room or your audience have. Your elevator pitch should be, I help people blank solve the problem of fill in the blank. And as you go through that elevator pitch development, always practice it before you get into the room. It's amazing how so many people miss the opportunity of conveying their value proposition in a giving way and immediately get into selling their crap. Practice, get confidence, adapt it to the meeting set that you're in, the networking meeting set that you're in, and sit back and relax, because you can give it comfortably once you practice it and make it yours. Okay. Preparation includes a give statement. The people that you meet are there to meet people. Always be looking as to what you can give to someone. So I help people do this, and I also introduce people to such and such and such and such. Now, who wouldn't want to be hanging out with a giver? So bring the giving into your elevator pitch. Next, in preparation, get your information aggregated. I have a Word document on my computer that I open up before each networking meeting begins. And I go to a good number of networking meetings for a whole bunch of reasons. But it has the information prepared that I want to copy and paste into chat. Give people the information they need to communicate with you, to reach back to you. And all too often, and I see a lot of save chats, you'll see why in a few minutes. All too often, people provide incomplete information and they make it difficult for others to follow up with them. And you'd be amazed at how many times people make mistakes posting their own LinkedIn profile, the link to their LinkedIn profile, or the link to a website. They have typos in them. They're incomplete. They have bad punctuation marks. Create your own version of your contact information with your value proposition, the problem you solve. Save it in your Word, in a Word file, so you can copy and paste it easily into chat so people can follow up with you. As I say, no sales pitches, problem, benefit, solution. When you do this, there's another reason why this is valuable. When you do it, you copy and paste it into chat. You're not having to think about it. You don't have to ask the question, well, did I get this right? Should I edit this? And does this mean, is this meaningful? Just get it done beforehand. And you can change it for each event, but make that change before you go so that you can pay attention while you're in there. A little more on the elevator pitch. Practice, practice, practice. One sentence on your background, 30 to 90 seconds, depending upon how much time is allowed. Think about the PAS model. If you haven't heard of the PAS model, you can Google this: problem, activation, solution. When you give an elevator pitch, and I already spoke to this a few moments ago, I help people solve the problem of getting value out of their networking meetings and the time they spend trying to find prospects. I do this by helping them. Off you go. You can, okay, pain, problem, how you help. I'm really so natural at this that I'm doing this without even showing the PowerPoint. And then finally, who are you looking for? Who are you looking to help? When you give that kind of direction, now you're drawing focus, and it all becomes natural if you practice. The second element is in-meeting engagement. Now, I don't know about you, but I sure do notice when people look disengaged and they're hard to see, the lighting's poor, and they're not smiling. There's nothing more infectious than a beautiful smile. And again, for myself, when I go online, a little man sitting on my shoulder says to me, Tom, there's Zoom cameras on. Paint that smile on your face. Just be aware you come across by how people see you. Make that visualization positive. Greet your room. It's funny when you go into a breakout room and there's 2 and 3 and 4 people, people sit there with a semi-frozen, how do we get this started, needing an icebreaker moment. That's when you have an opportunity to project your warmth across that group. You don't necessarily have to be the moderator to do this. You just say something warm and friendly and greet your room, because as soon as you set in motion the fact that you're open and approachable, the exchange of ideas has a freeway to run back and forth on. Again, I've already talked about pasting your details into chat. I want to speak to the construct of active listening. If you're coming up next on the speaking circuit or speaking rotation, and all you're doing is focusing on yourself and not listening, it's noticeable, number one, and number two, it's disrespectful. Show interest. As you show interest, it gives you the ability to ask a question, to put a message into chat, as an example, with an idea. Those kinds of exchanges attract people wanting to follow up with you. And it's really easy when you're prepared for that breakout room, or if it doesn't have breakout rooms and it's your turn to talk, you're prepared to talk, and then you're focused on hearing other people. I love to give introductions to people. If I were to say to Sam, for example, Sam, based on what I've just heard, I want to introduce you to someone who I think would be a great part of your community, or could need what you do in Coach Engage, or could. As soon as you start giving like that, whether you're doing it verbally or whether you're doing it in chat, people are going to want to talk to you. And as I said, first impressions count, so smile. Remember, I don't want to skip past this last line. It's vital. You're working in that entire networking room to identify opportunities and get people to want to follow up with you. That's the only takeaway. You're not going to close a sale there. You're not going to get a speaking engagement from there. You're going to get an opportunity to follow up to possibly get a speaking engagement or a sale. And that's the principal goal and what you should be aiming for. Set your targets on the right goal. So I have a couple of bonus questions. If you can take a screenshot of these, take this screenshot, because these are 2 of my favorite questions that I use to help me become known as the giver, the builder, the sharer, the person people want to be near. One of them is, would it be helpful if, or if you could, would it be helpful if I could introduce you to someone who might want to have you speak on their stage or talk to their audience? That offer of help is always well received. And the second one is even more powerful. I'd like to take credit for this, but I can't. I'm going to give credit where it's due. This question was given to me probably 15 years ago by Bob Berg. In it, the question is, and I use this all the time, if I were to meet someone, Sam, how would I know if they would be the perfect person to introduce you to? Now think about that. When someone comes to you looking for the perfect person to introduce you to, one, they've made a great impression Absolutely. You may have an answer to this question right away, and that's good too. But number two, you've taught them a question to ask you in return, because they probably don't think the way that that question positions the conversation, and you've taught them. And number two, the perfect reciprocity for asking that is to have it asked back. Remember, always be the introducer, and you're going to see your results multiply. Now, here's the hard part. And I call it the hard part because most people fall short in doing this. Question I would have for you is, if you look at all the Zoom networking meetings that you've been to, and this is a test, you're all being given a test right now. If you look at all those meetings that you went to and you saved the chat and closed the meeting, and Zoom sent that saved chat to you, and it's on your computer, and it's likely in your documents folder, and there's a file there that's labeled Zoom. How many times do you see importing that saved chat and it just sits there and nothing happens with it? Well, that's the hard part, because nothing good comes out of networking without follow-up. The key is, I go to all kinds of networking meetings, and the best leaders always emphasize following up. Now, I add a couple of qualifiers to there. I recently began describing what I call the half-life. It's a term out of nuclear physics, where they talk about the half-life of radiation from a different isotope. Well, in networking, I think the people who you talk with within 24 hours are twice as likely to be responsive than people you don't talk with beyond that 24-hour period. So I call the half-life of a networking follow-up opportunity is a day and a half. Once you go beyond that second day, people are off to the next networking meeting, and probably a little frustrated because they didn't get much out of the first one. You can change all that. When you talk to people in following up, always find out as much as you can about them, so you have a connecting reference, a link, a bridge. What you want to do is view their post, see their links if they provided, click into them to see what they're promoting or speaking about or published in their LinkedIn profile, and find a common area of interest that you can make in referencing your desire to follow up. Research them before you call them. Now, the way I like to do it is I propose that we have a short, mutually beneficial call, and also make it easy for them to say yes to it by providing a calendar tool, whatever it is you use to schedule your appointments. Now, I have a habit that as my calendar gets filled, and it does continuously, I'll sometimes not put my calendar link in a message, and instead say, send me your calendar link. And it's one of the ways I manage my time a little better. But I also prepare my calendar. I block off large amounts of time where I'm not available. You can't get into meet with me using my Calendly tool, because I've set that time aside for me to do other things. It's just good time management, time blocking it's called. You know about it. But I also provide time each week for people to conveniently get back into a follow-up call with me. Now, I like bringing gifts to follow-up meetings. Gifts are things that show that you were thinking about the person, and you brought something that you can give to them that they would find memorable about you when it's over. That gift could be the name of someone you want to introduce them to. I introduce people together all the time. That gift could be an article, a PDF file. You might call it a lead magnet. For example, I have an article on the six principles of influence that I spoke of earlier. I share it all the time in my follow-up conversations. It's an easy thing to send along as a keep in touch reminder in your follow-up process that you're a giver, and it delivers extraordinary value. So always bring something that reminds people. Put your label on it. Put your own contact information on it. Obviously, honor the copyright. Never take somebody's information, but add your connection data to it, and you've got a wonderful other focus giving opportunity with that. In the follow-up meeting, I focus on you go first. I'm going to try to play this in role. Sam, why don't you tell me about what you're doing and the people that you work with and what you're trying to accomplish, and then I'll take 10 minutes and talk about what I'm doing, and then let's brainstorm on ways we might support each other. Easy enough. We've got a structure and a call to action at the end of it. Now, the last thing, and this comes out of my sales training, and I've trained a lot of salespeople. In fact, I have a sales training course that is part of another workshop one day, maybe. But you never finish a follow-up conversation without having an agreement on the exact next steps. And the exact next steps were, thank you, I'll see you around. Hopefully I can find someone I can refer to you. It could be the end of the road. However, if it's not the end of the road, get specific agreement on what that exact next step is, and you'll find yourself able to move forward and bring that connection down through the ecosystem funnel into a relationship, which then will lead to a referral, an introduction, a sale, or whatever it is that you're desiring to achieve. So once again, here's the ecosystem. When we first meet someone at the networking meeting, we're all likely strangers to each other. Everything that's happening at the top of that ecosystem funnel is about making a contact turn into a connection and a relationship, and to get the results. I put sales in there. It may not be a sale. It may be a speaking stage that you want to get on. But I'll guarantee you, if you follow the steps here, this is the outcome you're going to get. You're going to get down into that results section to achieve what it is that you're looking for. Okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I'm going to take you in a new direction and tell you a little bit about what I do and how I help people make the journey from the top to the bottom. And if you stay through this, you'll see I haven't never made an offer like this before, ever. So my background is helping people get to the bottom of the ecosystem, and I'm a software provider of tools to help one do that. And today I'm going to talk about the most amazing follow-up tool that you've likely ever seen coming out of your networking activities. But I also have a tool called Engage Pro, which is a relationship building tool. And Sam will tell you more about that in the weeks ahead, because we are collaborating. And then I have a sales training tool that people are absolutely raving about called the 6-Step Sales Ladder. But let me show you a little bit about ChatBridge. It's a virtual networking follow-up system, and people absolutely love it. There's never been anything like it before. I'm going to leave this PowerPoint and just briefly take you into ChatBridge. And I know you can see my screen just to show you what it does. And the reality is, here I am logged into ChatBridge, very economical, easy to use tool. And to make follow-up easy, We had someone come to us in January and say, Tom, I'm downloading all these save chats and I'm getting nothing from them. Can you help me? So we went out and researched that and created something that is now a product. We brought it to the marketplace about June 1st, and it's called ChatBridge. And essentially what it does is take the saved chats from your networking meeting, and I'll use this one here. You've seen these saved chats coming out of Zoom. They're voluminous. This is a meeting I went to. It was hosted by a group out of the UK. Follow-up requires that you go through this and find a lead. Well, we said, no, let's not follow that pathway. Excuse me. In one click, we just imported into ChatBridge everything that a person posted in the chat. So now I can quickly screen through and see what they said and decide whether or not there's an opportunity there. Beg your pardon. But here we are. Here's Gary Rogers. He was at this meeting. Gary is a ChatBridge enthusiast, in fact. And he sent a message to me about a webinar that he's hosting. And he wanted me to join him in this webinar. Well, with ChatBridge, I can get to all of these people. And this is the size of the audience that came. I can get to all of these people and what they said in the chat stream in one click to import, select all, and then I come over here and import them. And as I import them into ChatBridge, every single person is brought in. All of these people have been brought over into the ChatBridge tool, and they are awaiting me following up with them. Now, as I come over to the ChatBridge tool itself, I'm going to show you how powerful this is, because inside of ChatBridge are all of the Zoom meetings I've been to over the months. And because I already imported that meeting, I won't be able to import it or need to import it a second time. But I'm going to pull it out of the file cabinet and bring it back into view. And there are all the people who came to that meeting imported into ChatBridge. And this is an employee of the host. So she kept posting over and over again. And that's what people do in virtual networking meetings. But let's just focus on Becky. Here's what Becky posted. Now, I contend that if you're going to reach out and follow up with Becky, you should be coming into what she posted and finding out what she's all about. What did she say? What does she do? And as you see this, you're going to also say, I want to follow up with Becky, but Benita Joy, let's see. No, Benita Joy isn't in my space. I don't want to follow up with her. I want to follow up with Becky. You want to find out about Becky? Well, she added her LinkedIn profile. One click on that and LinkedIn opens up, and now I can learn all about Becky and immediately reach out to Becky and see what she's doing and learn how best to reach out and communicate with her after we conclude that meeting. So ChatBridge organizes all of your saved chats, allows you to go into any single person who posted and say, do I want to follow up with them or not? When you think you may want to, you have all the links that they published. In this case, she's put her LinkedIn address in here again. And I don't know what her business is, but she posted a link for her business. And there comes, here's who she is. You want to make a relationship come together with this person? It's all here. It's awaiting you. And so I can go to her website, go to her LinkedIn page, and then, yeah, there's Catherine's information. and then reach out to Catherine and start the process. And isn't it interesting? She's added her email address, so I can copy and paste that into my own email system to make that follow up effectively. There's a lot more that ChatBridge does, but I'm not going to spend any more time on it. This system has been out in the market for about 90 days. It's gone global already. Some of the leading networking organizations have brought ChatBridge in and are using it for their meetings. Organizations like Speakers Playhouse and Event Raptor and others like that. So I'm excited to be able to share this with you today. And if ChatBridge is something that fits your networking process, fits your networking system, we've got a very special offer that we have on right now. It's offered as a 1-year license. It's half price. We're doing what's called an end of summer sale, and I'll post that information into the chat after I leave this meeting. And then I'm going to tell you about a special as we go through any questions. In addition to ChatBridge, I spoke about me doing sales training. Well, I have a 6-step sales ladder sales training program, and I'm doing a master class next week, next Thursday. And for people who invest in the ChatBridge program from this call today, I'm going to provide access to this masterclass and training for free. Normally, and it's being purchased today at $297. I'm going to make it free as a special offer for those who use the opportunity to buy ChatBridge today. So, Sam, I'm going to stop my sharing and move out of this. I don't want to turn this anymore into a sales presentation. I want us to solve problems and respond to people's answers. And I'll put the ChatBridge link into chat right now and save it so people can have access to it. And I just did that. But if you take advantage of this ChatBridge offer today, I will come back to you with a 100% discount coupon to my masterclass for next Thursday on the 6-step sales ladder. So Sam, why don't you take over and facilitate questions, because I haven't been seeing what might be coming in.
Okay, Tom, thank you so much. You always bring education and value to the group. I'm going to hit stop record, and then we'll go into Q&A.